Welcome again to Geek Orthodox. I'm Father Justin, Geek from my youth. And today it's again a rainy day in Lower Mainland British Columbia, so that means it is again story time. Today's story will actually fit neatly into the World of Code arc of our podcast. And it comes to you from my youth. And I suppose many passions have fought against me. But yes, one of the passions that I had in my youth was, of course, gaming, strategy gaming, as I've mentioned already. And the game on my color computer, because of course I got into computer gaming, that really captured my attention. I mean, there were lots of games that captured my attention. I enjoyed, Pac-Man, Double Back, various other TRS-80 color computer games that, ran on my computer. Not necessarily on my friend's computer. Well, Pac-Man did, but that was a clone that ran on everything. But was what really captured my attention and actually, in a sense, got me into computer programming was a little game called Stellar Empires. Now, I have to take you back, and this is also confession time. In those early days when the Radio Shack salesman was selling my father a TRS-80 color computer, one of the ways that he convinced him to get a color computer, as opposed to, say, a Atari 2600, which is what I was wanting, was that he said, there's all these games that can come with it, free games, and you could even program your own games. So my dad came back not only with a color computer, but also with a whole bunch of free games on cassette tape. Back then, disk drives were horrendously expensive. They were available, but they were horrendously expensive. And so what we used was instead cassette tapes. I should have a cassette tape to show you. Maybe I'll throw it up on the screen or something for those of you who don't remember that far back. So those, of course, were audio tapes that you could stick into a little cassette deck, hook up to your TRS-80 color computer. Here's mine right there. And then you could load programs in from the cassette tape. This also was, of course, before the days of the internet. And so if you wanted to load in a computer program from somewhere other than, typing it out yourself from a computer magazine or going out and buying a cartridge that would fit into your TRS-80 color computer, which there were some available, and which I had a couple. But if you wanted to vary your program or gaming diet, one of the ways to do that was to subscribe to a cassette tape magazine. And when you did that, you would be sent in the mail a cassette tape full of games, usually games written in BASIC, that would entertain you for the month, and then you would get another cassette tape, and so on. I never actually had that kind of money to subscribe in my youth to these nice little subscription services, but the Radio Shack salesman apparently had one himself. And so one of the many cassette tapes that we ended up with, thanks to this nameless Radio Shack salesman that my father was interacting with, was from a monthly cassette tape magazine called Chromazet. And in this, there were a whole bunch of different games and various other things. The program that I say that really caught my attention was one called Stellar Empires. It was, in fact, a early version of a 4X game. Explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. Before the term 4X had even been invented. It was, you start with one little star system in one corner of the galaxy, and then you spread out and conquer the entire galaxy. Now, the galaxy was fairly limited at this point because this program was written in, I learned many years later, written for the TRS-80 Model 1, which came with a grand total of 8 kilobytes of RAM. And I'll show you what some of the implications of that in a moment. But what I would do then is I would pop the cassette tape into my little cassette deck, press play, and then type C load for cassette load, and it would not load this quickly. I'm obviously using my emulator here, but it would load this file here called stellar ints, or stellints, stellar instructions. And then, of course, you would have to type run to run the program. And here are the instructions for the program. Now, why would you load an entire set of instructions when you are, just wanting to play a game? Well, first of all, it is a complicated game, so you do need to know that, this is a game where you're going 1 to 4 players are setting out to conquer an entire galaxy. And then here are your various options. And this is how to read your star systems as they're displayed on the star map. This is a class 3 system of Jakara, represented by the J, and the colored block is yellow if you control it and orange if you don't. And then there are various star systems. So 1 and 2 classes never rebel. 1 has the lowest income, and the higher it is, the more income you get. But as it says here, your home planets, which are class 4, are a pain in the neck. They often rebel against you. And then more instructions about battles and stuff. And then you can have a computer player. And now it says you're ready to play Stellar Empires. Now, again, why load in a separate file? Because it was designed to be to run in 8 kilobytes of RAM. And so I don't know, I haven't actually clocked how many characters we just went through, but I would say that's probably at least 1,000 characters, maybe 2,000. 2 kilobytes out of 8 is just too much, especially when it's a very advanced game like this. And so what it did is actually, having presented me with all of the instructions, it now has loaded in the background, loaded in the game. Now, again, this would take a little longer with an actual cassette tape, and you'd actually, if you had one of the plugs out, you could actually hear it go doo-doo-doo-doo, which is like the up and down, high and low pitches that represented the 1s and 0s that you were loading into your computer. And once you had it all loaded in, you could run it, and there you would have Stellar Empires. This amazing game. I'm going to set it up to run with 2 players. And let's just say we're going to run for 10 turns, and there are 13 star systems. So I would then put my name in. So I'm going to put my name in here. Father Justin. Usually that would be Emperor Edward III, but whatever. And then we add in the computer and wait for a little while as the computer works to set everything up. This emulator is actually about the right speed. That's the extent of the sound that you just heard there, the diddy, that it alerts you to the beginning of your turn. And of course, this is a game where you are taking turns and hiding what you're doing from the other player. So here I am. I'm going to press any key when ready. It tells me there's been no battles or new arrivals on Stardate 1. Surprise, surprise, because nobody else has been sent ships or anything. I have 6 resource units, which allows the protection of 1 star system. If I enter to continue, then I get this nice, what is your command? 0 for list. Okay, well, I don't know the commands. Well, actually, I do, because I play this game so often. But here are the commands. The most important one, in this case, is actually 1, display your star map. So I'm going to press 1 and display my star map. And here I have the fledgling empire with Deneb as my home system and some system that starts with the letter C right next to me, another system that starts with the letter M right next to that, and so on. And my opponent is out there somewhere. Who knows where? I actually know where because I've played this a lot. He's on I. At least I would bet you he's on I. So then what's my next thing to do? Well, of course, I should probably send some starships from one system to the other. So I'm going to do D, C. I'm just going to send 1 as a probe. And let's send 1 from D to M and another probe. And let's see. Oh, yeah, it was D to H. And that will be another probe. And then I'm just going to press enter and wait for the computer to decide his move. Now, as I say, this was so my experience of this game was this version that I got from Chromazet magazine. And I would then find out, oh yeah, I conquered the star system Capella. It's now part of my empire. I now have, this allows me to produce 2 starships. Great, I've got more starships to work with. And now I can look at the star map and see, I have conquered one more little part of the galaxy. So the game is actually pretty simple by modern standards. It's just you get the more planets you have, the more resource units you get. There's a kind of bit of a fog of war. You can't see what class the other systems are, but you actually, if you know the game, I know that A is Altair and B is Betelgeuse and so on, and I is Indy and probably the computer's home system, and you continue to play this game. Now, one of the things that one of the limitations of this game that always kind of bugged me was you have to specify an end. A maximum number of turns. So, and this is actually where this game started to get me into computer programming. Because as I considered, hey, wait a second, I actually want to play for a few more turns than what I specified, I realized this program is written in BASIC. I could actually just look at the program listing, because I was learning BASIC at the time, and modify the value of the variable. So if I then broke in and I listed the program, which again for the day was a pretty massive program. And it's 2,000 lines long. That actually means it's about 200 lines long, because you would normally leave 10 lines worth of space in between each line, because if you wanted to insert another line, you would want to. You can also see, by the way, if you look at, say, let's just list to say line 200, I can actually now look at this and you can see just how dense the code is here. There are almost no spaces. There are no comments at all. Variable names are between 1 and 2 characters long, but that's actually just a limitation of TRS-80 Color Computer Basic, or even TRS-80 Model 1 Basic, as this was originally written in. So it's not that easy to decode. Fortunately, some things are not too difficult. Here you can see on line 180, input for how long do you want to play in turns. It collects that in a value called X string, and then it assigns the value of X string to a variable called MT. Input, of course, is usually done in strings of characters, because you're typing a string of characters. And then you need to change that to a numeric value and store that in a numeric variable, in this case MT. MT, I would imagine, stands for maximum turns. And so it's like, oh, well, let's see, what is MT? I'm going to print what the value of MT is right now. Oh, it's only 10. I want to play for longer than that. I can just do MT is equal to 100, and then continue the game. And now I can keep playing for 100 turns. That really was my introduction to kind of modifying programs. And starting to, because I then went on to say, hey, wait a second, once I learned the game and realized this is actually pretty easy, even against 4 computer opponents. What if I had 8 computer opponents? So then it goes, oh, well, let's see. Probably need to figure out what variable stores the number of players who are playing, and that happens to be NP, number of players. And I could change that. Interestingly, when I did, I quickly found out that there were certain elements of the game that were hard-coded, and one of them was the number of star systems is actually based on the number of players, and you max out, I can't remember it exactly how many, but maybe 24 star systems. And so I had to actually find a way to increase the number of star systems as I had increased numbers of players, which had a knock-on effect. And so this really became a game that I modified and modified and modified and kind of got to know the code of it and started to actually fall in love with programming and what I could do with programming. So given how much I dearly love this game, I, of course, introduced this game to my children. I mean, I didn't play a lot of games with them on my color computer, but this one I had to introduce them to it. And so as I did that, and would occasionally pull it back and play it with them again, one of the things that my daughter remarked on as I was playing this with her and was sending a fleet. If you send a fleet from D to, I don't know, J, and then realize, I don't really want to go there. That's too far, and it's not really going to be militarily helpful, strategically helpful. So I'm just going to send 0, and the message that it gives you is a ghost fleet, eh? Which her observation was, I wonder if he's Canadian. That got me thinking, because I did know from having looked at the listing that if I broke into the listing and listed up to, say, line 100 or so, the first 100 lines are actually telling you who made the program. Those here we actually have some comments. These remarks, the little single quote is a comment. It's created by Graham Wilson and modified for the TRS-80 color computer by Ted and Drew Shorter, downloaded from Chromazette magazine, which I knew already. And so the next thing that I thought was, I wonder if I could actually find the author of this program, Graham Wilson. I started to search, found the domain name at the time, stellarempires.com, was run by a guy named Graham Wilson who lived in Canada. So he was indeed Canadian, and I got in touch with him, with the programmer of this game about 40 years after he created it, and had a little bit of a correspondence with him. It was kind of fun. He shared with me a little bit about the program, and then mentioned to me in part of the correspondence that there was a mystery about the game that he actually had never solved. There were people like me who were playing it on the TRS-80 color computer, and he had no memory of ever porting it to the TRS-80 color computer because he had written it for the TRS-80 Model 1. And so because I knew about these comments, I was like, I can actually help you solve this mystery. And I looked back at the comments again, sent him a screenshot of precisely this little screen here, and he got in touch with Drew Shorter, I think. Ted and Drew Shorter, it turned out, were a father and son team who ported this game to the TRS-80 color computer, and as far as we can tell, we've now all been in touch with, or at least Graham and Drew and I have all been in touch with one another. As far as we can tell, it was his father who added the AI, for which I am truly thankful, because as I've already shared with my early youthful gaming habits, I didn't have a whole lot of people to play with, and so it was really helpful to have computer players to play with, and in fact helpful even that they were kind of dumb, that allowed me to get into modifying the program further to add more computer players to make it a little more challenging, and so on. Now the reason I was getting into this game again came from the discovery that as I was starting to use the Raspberry Pi Pico in some of my computer science classes that I teach, I discovered that somebody had ported BASIC for the Raspberry Pi Pico, which is in fact just a microcontroller. But if you compare this to the TRS-80 color computer, it's actually a pretty powerful little computer. It has, I think, 192 kilobytes of RAM, as opposed to my TRS-80 color computer, which maxed out at 64K. And it is actually reasonably powerful. It can drive nice little displays, which are higher resolution than my TRS-80 color computer. And so I started to entertain the idea that maybe I would like to port my favorite game from the TRS-80 color computer to Picomite Basic, as it was called. I got myself a little screen and taught myself how to solder. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's really it's my very first soldering job, so it's not super amazing. But soldered some headers onto my Raspberry Pi Pico and plugged it into the screen and started programming. Now, initially, my hope was, this was a couple of years ago now, this new thing called AI would be helpful in creating this computer program. Because, ChatGPT was just introducing this thing called GPTs, where you could create or customize your own little generative pre-trained transformer AI with stuff that you uploaded. And so I thought, oh, perfect. I will get the computer to do all the heavy lifting for me and convert this game to Picomite Basic. And so I uploaded the manual for my TRS-80 color computer, for Color Computer Basic, and then uploaded the manual for Picomite Basic, and said, and then uploaded the code, the original code here, and said to the AI, okay, go to town with this. The AI came back with fairly unhelpful result. Basically, it did start translating the first few hundred lines of the program, or I guess I should say maybe the first 20 or 30 lines of the program. And then it said, and then continue as per, what I've just done. I'm like, why is it doing this? And I did a whole bunch of, I tried to get the AI to continue doing this for me. Like, that's your job. I don't want to do that. That's why I gave you the manuals so that you could translate. But no go. At that point, anyhow, it was just not going to actually translate it for me. I realized later that what I had uploaded was an instructional manual as the patterns. So the two main patterns that the AI was working off of were instructional manuals, which taught you how to do things yourself. So, to be fair to the AI, it was following the pattern and saying, okay, well, here's how we would start to proceed, and then you do the rest yourself. So, anyhow, that basically made me shelve the whole AI part of the project, but I was still interested in doing this, so I thought I can do this myself. I'm not a professional programmer, but I know TRS-80 Color Computer Basic pretty well, and I'd like to get to know Picomite Basic. So I started actually doing this, and I eventually, after many twists and turns, which I won't go into at this point, did finally manage to port the entire program from TRS-80 Color Computer Basic over to Picomite Basic. And the end result, in the process, I switched platforms to this cool little, it doesn't look so amazingly cool right there, but it's actually got a 320 by 240 pixel display with a Raspberry Pi Pico chip, Raspberry Pi 2050 chip, which drives the Pico 2 actually, built into it. So, and I then, having ported the thing over, I decided, because it's very difficult to get input devices, and I wanted a small portable input device, I decided that I would rewrite the program to work with a touchscreen. And so, after getting a little battery pack that would drive this, and figuring out how to wire it up to my little computer, I then had a fully functional version of Stellar Empires. Now here, I'm not sure how well this will come out on the screen, but I'm going to just move this over a little bit and try and demo this. I'll have my TRS-80 color computer in the background there. And so I'm going to see if I can demo the touchscreen interface here. So again, how many players, 2 to 4. I've actually engineered it so if I tap 1, it goes into kind of demo mode with Emperor Edward, which is my usual name for this game. And if I touch anywhere to continue, there have been no battles or new arrivals since Stardate 1. On Stardate 1, surprise, surprise, and touch anywhere to continue instead of press any key. So I then continue pressing this, and that should look pretty familiar. Touch anywhere to continue, and there's my star map, which I have automatically rendered instead of getting you to render that. And then I can move from a source system here to a destination system here. Let's see if I get that touch right. There we go. And I can put however many ships I want, send it. They will arrive on Stardate 2. Let's send from, oh, okay, if I try and send it from a system that I don't own, tells me that I don't make any sense, which is the same as message as before. And what I really wanted to show off was if I decide to send, hang on, the touch targets are pretty small, and decide I want to send 0 ships, it says a Ghost Fleet A. So it's actually running the exact same code as the previous or original version. And now if I conquer that system, it will show up and again display on my star map. So admittedly, this is not a particularly useful program, but I actually wanted to create it to honor Graham Wilson and Ted and Drew Shorter, who inspired me to get into programming in the first place. I mean, again, I didn't need a whole lot of inspiration, but it was wonderful to find a game that kind of appealed to my youthful sci-fi sensibilities of wanting to conquer the galaxy and use strategy to do that. It plugged into my desire for that kind of overarching narrative. I can imagine my empire and me as the emperor and you know, that kind of power fantasy that it's appealing to. And it can run now on this little tiny platform that replicates my TRS-80 color computer. Now, this is not the only basic program that was important and influential. In fact, this is because of its relatively limited reach, it was probably one of the less influential games written in BASIC. And so I think what I'm going to do next with this little project, once I finish ironing out all the bugs and making sure that this is all working properly as it should, so that I can actually use it and play it with my children or whoever else wants to play a game with me. I think my next plan for this project is to actually resurrect some more of these old basic computer games, because this, however maligned the basic programming language has been over the years, and you know, rightly so. there's these things like go-to statements that are really make for really terrible programming practice in the color computer. So if I look at the original code here, not only does it not have any spaces in it, but there's all these little go sub statements, which are actually rather nice. Let's see if I can make this a little bit better, easier to read. So, for example, here this go sub 780 actually passes the number that is being used in the variable C, because all of the variables are global variables. It passes it back up to a little subroutine here in 780, which checks to see if C is greater than 1. And if it is, then it changes the, again, global variable x string to S. And returns. Otherwise, the global variable x string is equal to a single double quotes, which is like it's empty. And then it returns, and that then I've probably lost where I was before. Well, here's another example of go sub 780. Tells you there are C ships if there's more than one, or C ship, one ship at this star system, the name of the star system, and how many do you want to send off? Actually, down here, I think is a Ghost Fleet A somewhere. I can't find it now, but so that's the little subroutine at 780. It's interesting to look back on how people programmed at this point in time, because yes, we have a little subroutine here at 780, but that also means that you need to, just before that, on line 770, go to line 790. So you have to jump over this, because you might want to go sub 780 again and check to see if you have more than one of whatever it is. It also means that there are potential problems here if you assign the wrong value to C or the wrong value to X string, but that's basic for you. And so anyway, I had lots of fun programming this, and kind of reprogramming it for Pico Basic. Ran into all sorts of interesting issues, like, for example, in Tier City Color Computer Basic, X and X string are two different variables, or C or C string are two different variables. On Pico Basic, they're the same variable, and you'll get an error if you try to reuse a numeric variable to hold a string. All sorts of little details like that I'm not even sure even if the AI had translated it, whether it would have picked up on an error like that. I'm not sure it's smart enough to do that. Admittedly, I did get the AI to help me create a touchscreen control layer for my to control all this. I had the basic equivalent, essentially, the version that I had the basic equivalent of peek and poke, and it's all very specific to the hardware. This actually gets into an interesting point about BASIC. All of the different variants of BASIC were targeted to the specific hardware that they ran on, which is another reason why, as I'm porting this over to this new hardware, I have to include code that is specific to the hardware that it's running on, because all of the abstraction layers that you have in modern programming languages just don't exist. Anyhow, my plan, once I finish with Stellar Empires, is to go on and pick up on a bunch of the other really important and influential basic programs, which, for example, so this is a very influential book available here on the Internet Archive, 101 Basic Computer Games. This is the one of the earlier editions. Interesting. Which includes a whole bunch. Please don't scroll past it. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you any money right now. But which gives you a whole bunch of programming listings to type into your computer. Again, this is before the internet, even before BBSs at this point. And so what you would do then is just type in these program listings on your BASIC computer and hope it would run. Of course, because BASIC was customized to every single different platform that was out there, and there were a lot of platforms. Here, I should maybe make this full screen so it's a little more visible. It was kind of a bit of a crapshoot as to whether or not once you type this out, whether or not it would actually run on your system. As a result, they were generally designed to run on any and every system and to be as general as possible, including that not even bothering to clear the screen at any time. This is one of the most important ones, this Hammurabi, in which you govern ancient Sumeria. This is actually an early version of the Empire simulation game, where if you think about civilization, this whole genre got its start with games like Hammurabi, where all you're really determining is how many bushels of grain you're going to serve up to your people. Or an earlier version of an earlier genre that we see kind of in its nascent phase of development here in basic computer games is the Civil War one, which I flipped past. But again, an early version of, all sorts of different games could be found and typed into your computer in here. And so what I kind of like to do is continue on from this project with which I've undertaken just because this is my favorite game, and then develop this little hardware platform and target this little hardware platform so that it can run all sorts of the really influential basic computer games. There'll be a little bit of porting involved, a little bit of control to adapt it for the touchscreen. But again, not a particularly useful project, but I do feel that history matters, including elements of history that we often forget or are overlooked. And because BASIC was so ubiquitous, because it was such an important computing language for so many people who were introduced to the idea of controlling a computer through this very simplified version of computer programming called BASIC, I think it's actually worth preserving some of this history and maybe even reinventing it in a way that could expose people to what computers used to be like in the modern age of computing, where code is now so ubiquitous that we don't even think about how it's there in the background, controlling our lives, or offering us games that were developed as genres over many generations and came to, like this one in the 4X genre, become standard parts of our gaming lives, which didn't exist prior to the world of code, in which we now live and move and breathe and have our being.